Let's talk about some players, man. I sent you a list. It was 5 guys. We're not going to talk about 2 of them because 2 of them were kind of underwhelming to me. One was Deuce Vaughn, and the other just wasn't ready. But I do want to talk to you about 3 of these players on defense that we have queued up here. I won't say I caused a bit of a stir, but I did get on the internet yesterday and I asked the question. One thing I noticed about Twitter and Cowboy fans in particular is Cowboy, like we kind of, and look, when I say we, I mean them, not we like me included. But there's this hype cycle that always happens, and I'm always curious where the hell these hype cycles come from, right? It's like all of a sudden there's one player that pop up in all the mock drafts. Like when this happened? When did this start? Or there's this one player that all of a sudden is bumped up from the 6th round all the way to the 2nd. You know what I mean? Oh, VOCH, we got to get this guy. And Jalon Kilgore was that guy. For me, I kind of go down PFF's list. I don't, go with their rankings or anything like that, but I do just use them as a list. And PFF had Kilgore way down in the 4th and 5th range. Cool. That's why we're talking about him now in March. But the hype associated with him, and I guess his combine or whatever, it kind of got people talking about Kilgore now like he's a day 2 type character. And I'm like, hey, man, if you feel that way, cool. But I watched Jalon Kilgore, and I will say this. I understand people's excitement about Kilgore. It's just that some of his warts would keep me from taking him as high as his hype would suggest that he goes that high. So I guess the first thing that you had to figure out is, do you list him as a corner or do you have him listed as a safety? VOCH has him as a safety. And I have him in the 4th round. The size and the measurables and all that, fantastic, cool. He's a big old boy, kind of long. Strong safety, more than likely plays at nickel sometimes. South Carolina put him on the roof sometimes. I don't think they should leave him on the roof. I think they should take him off and leave him down in the box. I think where he's going to make most of his money is going down, making plays versus the run, and covering like bigger guys. I don't want a man covering little small shifty dudes. You'll see him sometimes. He'll press up versus a small shifty dude, and you'll see some of his technique flaws kind of show a little bit. He'll turn his back to the wide receiver and stuff like that. Get spin around and all this. He'll kind of open up too bad, too much, or his leverage wouldn't be great or all that. But I think he's really good. Like when they put him at linebacker, sometimes I think he's good there. When they put him at strong, I think he's good there. Or if he's going to chase around a tight end or a big slot dude, I think he's a good big nickel in that way. Yeah, kind of tell me what you think about Kilgore. Give me a rundown. If you got traits that I didn't bring up, you mention them there, and just talk about how he fits in this safety class in general, or if you have him as a corner.
Yeah, I have him as safety, and I think you nailed it. I think he's definitely a project, and if you're looking to draft him on day 2, by all means, I think he's sort of the bigger version of Keontae Scott for Miami. I say that I actually like Scott more than Kilgore. I think Scott's more instinctive. I think Scott's a little more reliable as an open field tackler. But I mean, there's things I like about Kilgore's film. I have him also as a 4th rounder. But when you look at him, in terms of my scouting process, you look at what can a player do, as opposed to focusing on what a player can't do, because there's a lot of players, if you focus on that, I think you're gonna miss more than you're gonna hit. So focus on the traits that matter. And what he does have, he has athletic tools, he has good ball skills. I think he's a good run defender. He's physical. What I think he's missing is the nuances of what he needs to be a starting nickel or starting strong in the league right now. And he has time to develop that, but that's why I have him in the 4th round. I think he's a bit more of a project and a developmental piece that you bring in, help on special teams right away, and then he can develop into that guy. But I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts on this, but do you think he was playing a little out of position at nickel? I mean, like they were playing that slot corner, and he was guarding Casey Concepcion at Texas A&M, and he's got blasted.
Yeah.
So I don't think South Carolina put him in the best positions all the time. I think he's more of a true strong. Like we talk about AJ Halsey and how he played more of the roof in that free safety role. I think he's probably more of a strong guy at the next level. I think Kilgore is probably in that same mold. But when you look at what Kilgore can do, like I said, physical, plays the run, he plays the ball really well when he sees it. I just don't like the nuances when he has to play with his back to the ball, where he has to shift laterally and mirror match. I don't think he's ready for that. It's not because of a lack of athleticism. I think it's more of a lack of technique and sort of those instincts. So I I'm not as big of a fan of Kilgore. I think there's a value for him if you get into the 4th, 5th round. But taking him a little higher than that, I think you're going to be. I think you need to manage your expectations a little bit.
I think he's closer to Strowman than he is Ramsey, if that makes sense. I think a lot of people will make him seem like he's like a Ramsey type guy, to where he plays all the safety spots in nickel, and I love him there. I think he's more of a Strowman, to where I think Strowman plays everywhere when he shouldn't, but his best role is like in the box and playing run game stuff. This safety class is interesting because this is one of the. First of all, I can't stand watching safety. First of all, I hate safeties. It sucks. I hate having to sit through them and wait for plays to happen. But when plays happen, it's cool. But I will say this year is the most interesting group of safeties that I've watched since I've been watching film, and it's because I think there's this feel that they all do multiple things. Like they all do a bunch of stuff. Like everybody is some combination of 2 jobs or 3 jobs. And some people like Caleb Downs has, 4 or 5 jobs. You know what I mean? So I will say that this safety class in general is a little better than most of the class I've been watching.